All right. Hello. Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday, May 4th. It is officially Star Wars Day, so I will say way too many times today, may the 4th be with you. I was trying to explain that to my now 7-year-old daughters, and they were like, I don't get it. I'm like, that's okay. I'm going to say it to you anyway. But thank you, all of you, for being here. We're here for research methods on this second to last week of the semester. Crazy, our class is very close to being over. But I see a lot of you joining me, getting your name here in the chat. Can you hear me and see me just fine? Can all of you hear and see me okay? Wait just a second to make sure. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you for letting me know. Perfect. Okay. That's great. I'm glad you can hear me. Thank you, Shri. Thank you. I'm glad you can all hear and see me just fine. I hope everyone is doing okay, hanging in there. I still feel like I have a little bit of like a cake hangover from this weekend. I ate a lot of cake this weekend. We made cupcakes, and then we had a cake and lots of desserts. But my 7-year-olds had a great birthday party, so that was kind of fun. But thank you again for being here. It is our second to last week. I want to make a few comments about last week. We'll talk about this week and the things that we have left. Again, we're definitely kind of down to the wire here at this point, which is always a little bit bittersweet, right? I'm excited for summer, and this summer should be very different than last year. So hopefully we are all able to do a little bit more and enjoy the summer a little bit, unlike last year, which was very restricted and very kind of scary in a way. So hopefully we have an exciting summer coming up, but it is sad to see our class winding down for sure. So let's go over to Canvas, and we'll take a look together at a couple of things from last week, and then again we can talk about this week as well. So let me get over there. So if you scroll all the way down, we are in week number 16, the second to last week of our semester. So I'm going to put this in the chat here in just a minute here. Our class officially ends on Sunday, May 16th at 11:59 p.m. So we have this week and next week, and then everything needs to be turned in by the end of week number 17. And you are able to access week 17 already. I opened that up for you last week for those of you who wanted to work ahead. But let me put that in the chat here just so you can have that just kind of in your mind. Oh, and then I had this written out already too. Don't forget to check. I know we're toward the end of the semester, but don't forget to keep checking that you have your little cake or crown next to your name so I can track and keep track of your attendance and participation and all of that. But our class officially ends on Sunday, May, wow, I'm so bad at typing and talking, May 16th at 11:59 p.m. So just something to keep in the back of your mind that we have this week and next week. And once our class officially ends, it will be too late to turn anything in. In fact, there are all kinds of rules about the grading and how fast I have to have that in. So please just keep a mental note of that so that you're not late or forgetting anything for next week. But we have a few things for these 2 weeks, but let's really quickly go back to last week, week number 15. So last week we were looking at chapter 14 on replication. Really well done. A lot of you did a great job in the discussion of pointing out some of the flaws and the things that maybe could be done a little bit better in terms of why a replicated study might fail. So very nicely done on that. A few of you still forgot to respond to a peer where I wanted a little bit more. But for the most part, at this point, you all seem to have a great grasp of what I'm looking for and what I'm expecting. And I'm seeing that out of the vast majority of you. So that makes me very happy to see. So that's wonderful. And also a lot of you did great on the extra credit question of describing that replication crisis. So week 15 is in the books, and nicely done for the most part. And I sent out that feedback and email and everything last night for you. This week we are on week number 16, our last chapter that we're covering. So for this week we are looking at chapter 4. And we definitely went a little bit out of order, but I think this fits really nicely here, especially as you're starting to think about that experiment proposal project that is due next week. But the chapter 4 lecture, if we click here, we're looking at the topic of ethical guidelines for psychology research. And I talked about this in the lecture, but these are something that weren't always there. We haven't always had guidelines for how we have to treat our research participants. And so we've had a lot of ethical questions and violations in the past. Thankfully, these are present now, and we have a lot of things to protect our participants. So make sure you read through the summary, a little bit about the Tuskegee syphilis study, the Milgram obedience study, some of the ethical principles and guidelines, and a little bit about animal research. On the Beyond the Book page are some other famous unethical psychology studies, like the Stanford prison experiment and Little Albert, and then some experiments with dogs and learned helplessness. So this is definitely something that there are a lot of examples of in psychology, of research times or experiments that didn't take into account the health and well-being of the participants, which is why it's so important that we have these at this point. There's also some key terms and review here on the last page. So these are all the things that you'll need to know from chapter 4 for that final exam that you're taking next week. So make sure you listen to or read through that short little kind of typed lecture piece. And then here's the lecture video for you that I created, and I was able to post it on YouTube so you can watch it anywhere. But I did go through and lecture on chapter 4 for you, so I hope you take the time to watch that. That should be really helpful for you in understanding the materials for this week. So those are the core things for this week, right? You have chapter 4 in the textbook, the chapter 4 lecture video, and then you have a discussion for this week on chapter 4, if we click on that as well. For this, what you're doing is you're looking at a short scenario below and then answering some questions related to each scenario. So there are 2 scenarios and 2 questions for each. The first one, a developmental psychologist applies to an institutional review board. That should say BOARD, I'll fix that, IRB, proposing to observe children ages 2 to 10 playing at a local McDonald's play area. I sadly can't really do this right now, but let's pretend it's just pre-COVID. Because the area is public, the researcher does not plan to ask for informed consent from the children's parents. Scenario number 2, a social psychologist plans to hand out surveys in her undergraduate class. The survey asks about student study habits. The psychologist does not ask the students to put their names on the survey. Instead, students will put completed surveys into a large box at the back of the room. Because of the low risk involved in participation and the anonymous nature of the survey, the researcher requests to be exempted from the formal informed consent procedures. So for both of these scenarios, 1 and 2, I want you to answer 2 questions. What ethical concerns exist for the study? Be specific. Be sure to reference specific concepts from chapter 4 in order to earn full credit. And then what questions might an IRB ask about the research study if they were evaluating it for those ethical guidelines? So that's your last discussion of the semester, where you're looking at applying chapter 4 to some of the things that you have learned. So don't forget to do that, to do discussion number 16. I'll give you the Twitch extra credit in just a little bit here, but I wanted to point out, as I mentioned to you before, I did make week number 17 available. So those of you who would like to work ahead and kind of wrap up the class, you are more than welcome to do that. I wanted to give you that flexibility as we get into the end of the semester, and I know everyone's stress levels are really high, and finals and just everything coming up. So if you wanted to look at it now, exam number 4 and the study guide for exam number 4 are available for you. And so is the experiment proposal project link. So you can start turning that in. And then we will have one last Twitch stream next week to go over all of these things one last time. I'll see if there are any other questions. We'll talk a little bit more about exam number 4 and anything related to the experiment proposal project. So we will have one last stream. Let's put that in the chat here while we're talking about it. We will have one last Twitch stream on Tuesday, 5/11 at 9:15 in the morning. So that will be our chance to go over everything for week number 17. And we'll talk about all the reminders and announcements and kind of wrapping up everything with the class next week. So I hope you're able to join me for that last stream. Thank you for those of you who keep coming every Tuesday morning. I know it's kind of a random time, but I appreciate you all being here and having the chance to interact with you. I want to point out that exam number 4 is a little bit different than some of the other tests we've taken. So it is worth 50 points and it's the same amount of time and all of that. But if you click on study guide number 4 and you are taking a look at this as you're getting ready to study and prepare, you'll notice that this test has APA formatting part 3, chapter 14, and chapter 4. So these topics that we've covered over the last 3 or 4 weeks. But then there is a small cumulative portion of this test. It's about 10 points or so of this exam are a few big concepts that we've covered over the course of the semester. Now, this is the only class that I do this in, but I do think it's really important. And honestly, these things are things that we've been building upon all semester. And so it should be very, very simple because we've built on them and been adding to them for weeks. So I did give you some elements right here of things that are fair game for cumulative questions. So scientific thinking versus intuitive or common sense thinking. The big types of claims, the 4 validities, be able to identify each of them. Correlation, directions, and strength, so be able to look at scatter plots and Pearson's R. Independent and dependent variables, correlations versus experiments, and samples versus populations, and sampling methods and problems. So these are some of the really big key concepts that we've covered over the course of the semester that should be pretty easy for you to identify, but I did want to give you some direction as to what to review and study. And again, what I've seen in the couple of years I've taught this is that people tend to do really well on these questions because we've been building on them and they're kind of part of your knowledge base already. So as you start to prepare for this exam, the majority of it is on APA Part 3, Chapter 14, and Chapter 4, but make sure that you're also studying these key things that you are able to identify them and answer some multiple choice or true-false questions about them. So that exam is next week, but again, you're welcome to start working on it now. The experiment proposal project is also due next week. And I wanted to point out, I did go ahead and add a couple of sample papers in here for you. There's one on music and comprehension, one on social media, and one on water and energy. There's also 3 sample flyers on here. So if you wanted to get an idea of what other people did and kind of what I'm looking for, I think these are a really great place to do that. And they're very different papers. So if you click on music and comprehension, for example, you can kind of see how this person formatted their paper, what they focused on. So we have a very nice title page here with a page number at the top. Look how beautifully formatted it is, right? Bold, and then I deleted their name, but everything here is formatted as it should be. Notice that we have the abstract on its own separate page, hint, 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 right? A summary of what they were studying. This person did the keywords. You don't have to do that, but it's kind of fun. Page number in the top right. And then as we get down here, right, the title of their paper, there's no introduction section. So they start right away on methods with the participation subheading, talking about how they're going to get their sample, then the design of their experiments, really spending a lot of time going over all of that, the procedure and how they're going to do that. This person made like a mock table. You don't have to do that, but I thought it was kind of fun. This was someone who obviously got an A on their paper, which is why I'm sharing it with you. And then we have a discussion a little bit about what they expect to find and some ideas related to that. So here's one really great sample paper. There are 2 more for you if you wanted to look at one on social media. Here's one more example. And I was hoping these would be helpful for you and trying to format and also just kind of figure out what you want to write in your paper. So you'll notice again, title page, very nicely formatted, page number, abstract with a page number here on its own page. Then this person gave me the title and then kind of like a little paragraph, which I really liked, kind of introducing their idea and explaining it. Method section with participants, design, all of this is the design, the procedure, right? Discussion. They spent a little bit more time talking about their discussion. So please, take a look at these if you're feeling a little stuck on how to format or design your paper. These 3 sample ones might be really helpful. Here are some sample flyers. Remember, you're making like a 1-page flyer as if you were kind of broadcasting or highlighting your study. So this person, are you on SSRIs? Help us with our research. It's got a couple of pictures. It's engaging, not a ton of text, but we have some information here, right? I think this is a really nice example of a flyer. Let's go back. Here's another one. So there are 3 flyers and 3 sample papers. And I think, again, these are all fantastic. So this person was looking at trazodone and sleep. So they have some images, some information about their study. You're just kind of giving me a quick 1-page highlight. And then remember, you're also making a video that's under 2 minutes. So it's very brief, where you're maybe talking about your flyer, kind of highlighting your experiments and what you'll be doing. So all of this is available to you right now. I really hope that you take advantage of that extra time if you're feeling a little stressed about next week. But this week we are still focused here, so make sure you get all of these things done before the weekly deadline. So before Sunday night at 11:59 p.m., everything from week number 16 on chapter 4. I want to point out 2 other things really quickly, but are there any, before I do that, are there any questions at all about the materials for this week, or any questions about even next week? Anything I can answer for you? Wait just a second, just to let you catch up to me. I want to point out 2 things. No, you're good. Thank you, Sheree. Thank you for letting me know. If you think of anything, obviously put it in here. But I want to point out 2 things. I did send out a survey link last week in the announcements. And a lot of you have done this, but please, if you haven't, I need to collect 1 piece of data from all of you. And this is ridiculously simple, and it should be a very, very easy 1-question survey. But the psychology department is trying to collect a little bit of data to do our own research in a way. And so it's very important that all of you take a moment to answer this. So at some point, you can either do it right now, or maybe when we're done, or at some point this week. If you go to quizzes, there is a 1-question SLO exit survey, if you will. So it's a student learning outcome. We need 1 question answered from each one of you. It is a 1-question true-false survey. It should take you literally like 10 seconds. So you'll click take the survey, and then all you're doing is answering psychology as a science, true or false, and then hit submit. And so I just need all of you to answer this. It's not worth any points, but it's really, something that we're collecting. So please take a second to do that at some point. It's under the quiz link. So you'll see it there when you go to take exam number 4, but it should only take you a second. And it's really important data that we're trying to do a little bit of assessment of our student learning objectives and outcomes for our classes. So when you go to take exam number 4, if you could just hit this and do that really quickly, that would be fantastic. I also want to remind you to, at some point, take a look at your grades. Remember that I asked you last week, either this week or even next week is still fine, but look through all of your scores. And if you notice that something is missing that shouldn't be, you weren't graded on something that you know you submitted, now is a really wonderful time to reach out to me. Shamefully, again, I am still failing my class, 0 points. But, take a look through this. If you find that you're missing something, email me, let me know, and we could take a look at it together and fix it before it becomes difficult to do so. So just a few things in addition to our kind of normal weekly stuff. If you could make sure that you're reading chapter 4 in the book, look at the lecture, watch the lecture video, do the discussion, do that sample that little survey quiz, that 1-point survey at some point this week. Check your grades. And then I do have a Twitch extra credit question for you that I will give you as well. So those are the big things for this week. Again, our class ends next Sunday, so feel free to get going on this if you want. I gave you that little bit of extra time, so I hope you take advantage. But let me give you the Twitch extra credit question so that you have it if you would like to answer that for the week. You have this week and next week for those 2 extra credits, so take advantage while you can. Here is the Twitch extra credit question, and this is for week number 16. Let me put that in here. Right, so your question is, what are the APA's 5 general ethical principles? And you just need to list them. What are the APA's 5 general ethical principles? And when you're ready to answer that, you'll go to Canvas. We're in week 16, so you'll click here on Twitch extra credit 16. Up here at the top, start assignment. And then you will type your response. So you can do that anytime before Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. When you're done, you'll hit submit, same as you've done for weeks, but just to make sure that it's clear and everyone knows where to go and what to do. So those are my big things for the week. I'll talk more about the exam and the experiment proposal project. I'll go through those instructions one more time next week. Go through the study guide. If you have any questions about the study guide, our last Twitch session next week would be a great time to ask those of me. Otherwise, are there any other questions at all? Again, we only have one more stream together next week, so we're down to the end, but please try and finish strong. Try and get through these last few things that we have left and finish strong with them and get the extra credit for this week and the extra credit next week to help yourself out. So what I will do is I will hang out for a little bit here if you have any questions about this week or next. Otherwise, have a wonderful week. It's supposed to get hot today and tomorrow, so enjoy our summery weather. And I will, again, I'm going to minimize my video, but I'm going to hang out for a little bit. If you do have any questions that you would like to ask me, I will still be here. So have a wonderful week. We're almost to the yellow tier, so very exciting. Things are starting to open up. I'm waiting for the Regal movie theater here in Simi to open. I missed that popcorn. I'm ready. I want to see the Conjuring 3 for my birthday in June. And then A Quiet Place 2. There's some movies coming out. It's been a while since we've had movies, so I'm definitely ready. But thank you all. Have a wonderful week. Take care of yourselves. Hang in there. And I'll be here if you have any questions.